Well, hello, and welcome to our weekly celebration of Living Spirit at Vita Spiritual Learning Center. It is tremendous to be with you today. Now, like me, you might get asked to describe the science of mind, or Centers for Spiritual Living, or New Thought. And I do have a few bumper stickers that I can easily expand upon, like change your thinking, change your life. But one I've come to use more frequently lately is from Romans in the Bible. It says, "Do not imitate the way of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may discern what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God." And I bumper sticker that down to transformation by the renewing of your mind. You know, if one's interested in transforming or in healing, and that could include physical wounds as well as metaphysical wounds, if one is interested in changing one's life for the better, Yeshua taught that transformation begins in mind. Fantastic. How? How does that happen? Well, that's where the science of mind and spirit comes in. And Ernest Holmes, in the science of mind and spirit, developed an easy-to-use teaching, a philosophy, a way of life that is accessible and available to anyone and everyone. The science of mind employs scientific method to help you transform by the renewing of your mind. And just like science uses experiment to prove a hypothesis, Ernest Holmes urges you to prove Yeshua's statement for yourself. And Ernest Holmes offers these pretty easy to understand spiritual principles, and you activate those spiritual principles using a few techniques and a few practices. And as you're doing that, you analyze your data. You notice how your thinking is changing or how it has changed, and how it's changed for the better. And as your thinking changes for the better, your life changes for the better. Now, however appealing that proposal might be, for some that appears to be a lot of work. Oy. Why can't my spouse or my family or my coworkers or my therapist or my practitioner work on my consciousness? I don't know how to fix my car, so I take it to a mechanic. I don't know how to grow my consciousness, so it follows I take it to someone who does. Well, it's bad news, good news. You are the one and only one that can heal and grow your consciousness. And it turns out just a little bit of work, a little bit of effort, engaging spiritual practices, even for just a few minutes, once or twice a day, can move mountains in your consciousness. So just a little bit of meditation or a little affirmation, affirmative prayer, doing some spiritual study or reading on a daily basis, or maybe journaling as a spiritual practice on a daily basis. Or you might vision, as I do, daily, saying, what is the divine high idea for this day, my life, and what is the quality or character of that vision? You might join in sacred service as a spiritual practice. See your practitioner, as I mentioned. They're going to help you transform your consciousness. They can't do it for you. You might give as a spiritual practice or tithe to what feeds you spiritually. And you might do as you are doing right now, joining in a kind of beloved community that fosters your growth in consciousness. Now, it turns out, too, at those times when you are especially challenged, when a spiritual practice feels like a lot of work or effort, when it feels like you're just going through the motions, do it anyway. Because you never know, that could be the moment that has one of the bigger impacts on your spiritual journey, on growing your consciousness. And even if it doesn't, do it anyway. So the intention is for you in spiritual practices to amplify these principles in your life. And it is for you to know and live God that is within you. And it is that God of your understanding that continues to expand and grow. And it is for you to live spirit in a way that is making you a more loving, more peaceful, more joy-filled, more compassionate presence in this plane and beyond. And it is those spiritual practices that are there for you to know and feel that at your essence, you are pure spirit. You know, the theme that we have been working with for all of these months is living everyday wonder. And the theme for September is called living everyday wonder in work. You know, apart from sleep, the biggest part of this human phase of your soul's journey is devoted to some form of work. And work may be as a parent, or as a spouse, or in a job, or on a career, or in some creativity, or in sacred service, or on your body temple, or on your consciousness. So this month, the intention is for you to find the good in the work you do, to find the everyday wonder within the task, the project, the widget, the design, the conversation, the product. You find more good and take the opportunity to do all the good you can. And you do that because this is a natural extension of who you are within, a loving offspring of the Most High God. Today's message is about good work. So let's try beginning with this affirmation. I do wonderful work in the world. And you might even just simplify it to, I do wonderful work. But I do wonderful work in the world. Just affirm that for yourself. Now, one of my favorite practitioners was the beloved Clifford Giles. And Clifford made his transition many years ago. And his consciousness lives on in my heart and mind, as it does for thousands of others whose Clifford's life touched. You know, when Clifford was saying goodbye, his parting quip was always, the last thing I heard him say was, keep up all the good work. Keep up all the good work. You know, I knew Clifford to be a very active person. He was active at my home church at the time, which was North Hollywood Church of Religious Science. He was active in his children and grandchildren's spiritual communities. He was active in numerous community service organizations. And as active as Clifford was, he always had time for me or for anyone who asked. And he made it all appear easy and effortless and natural and stress-free. Now, in addition to all of Clifford's accomplishments and accolades in life, being an active service during his golden years was, you know, to his way of putting it, his life work. And that was in part because he was answering some high calling, and it was in part because he was able to integrate in his evolving consciousness anything and everything that he put effort into. For as active as Clifford was, he was that embodiment of a metaphysical law called the law of least efforts. So Clifford did not appear to be busy or rushing about. He was kind of calm and steady. He was not working harder, but he was the epitome of working smarter. You know, Gandhi famously said, I have so much to do today, I must meditate for 2 hours instead of 1. And you know, Gandhi was known for a daily schedule with which very few could keep up. And Gandhi was living that law of least efforts. Now, what happens when I am not living the law of least efforts? For example, have you ever been in a hurry and can't find something like your keys? So whatever that might be, in a highly excited state, I'm not really in my right mind. I'm anxious, I'm agitated. My thinking is, at best, scattered. My five sensory systems are not really functioning all that well, and I'm expending a lot of energy and not accomplishing much. So that is the opposite of the law of least efforts. How do I get back to it? Well, for me, I just take that moment, right? I become aware of the pattern of my breathing. And at first that awareness might be, my breathing is labor. But I just notice each in-breath and each out-breath. And within a few breaths, I calm down. My five sensory perceptions improve. My mind begins to clear. My thinking improves. And in that moment, I recall where I left my keys. So operating contrary to the law of least efforts is kind of draining. It's unsustainable. It's certainly not as productive as you could be. And at times, even for me, this was or is, perhaps a daily experience, whether it's on the job or at home or in relationship or in learning or in play or even my work on consciousness. For Clifford and Gandhi, you and I, and for you and I, there is more to the law of least efforts. It's kind of a misinterpretation, a misapplication of the law of least efforts to dismiss the task at hand because it's too difficult. You might just say, well, the law of least efforts says this should be easy, it looks hard, I better not do this. That's not how the law works. Applying the law of least effort means you pay particular attention, you bring to conscious awareness to what your surface layer thinking that is often falsely perceiving as a lot of work, as a lot of effort. So you're going to bring that to conscious awareness, and then there are going to be, or there is at least an intention, when that work flows with an ease and an effortlessness. And the law of least efforts affirms that you are going in the right direction, or this work is growing your consciousness. So how do you do that? How do you put the law of least efforts into play? Well, first it's just to say this work before me is before me for some reason. Perhaps a reason I haven't fully divined, right? And you may ask, well, what is important or timely about this work? Whether it's the earth plane aspect of this work or whether it's work on the spiritual plane that I'm called to do. Second is, as I mentioned, to set that intention that the work integrates deeper meaning or value. It might begin as a broad meaning or value, something like, the work I do benefits myself and others. Not sure what that might be, but I'm just going to set that intention, that it is of a benefit to myself and others. Or you might say, anything worth doing is worth doing well. So a general intention might be enough. And you might get more specific. Remember, part of the power of affirmation is to make definite the infinite. You might call to mind some specific ways the work you intend to do benefits yourself and others, right? This work creates, this one working system. This work creates a piece of furniture. This work makes a safe and clean environment for myself and others. This work expands my consciousness. And it expands my consciousness as I acknowledge and appreciate other beings on their spiritual journey. And third, take a moment to vision the work, right? Take a moment to ask, what is the divine high idea for this work I am about to do? And as that idea fills your inner vision, notice the qualities of God, those positive feelings, those inward feelings that now come alive. Whether it's affluence or order or safety or peace or freedom or fulfillment or wisdom or well-being or compassion. This is what evolves from your vision catching that high idea about whatever it is, including this work that is before you. So by taking that moment to prepare your consciousness to renew your mind, you transform the ordinary to the extraordinary. You transform any work into good work. And now your affirmation is, my good work is a wonder to behold. My good work is a wonder to behold. Over and above what is being accomplished on the earth plane, it is the consciousness with which you go about an activity that makes all the difference. That was what Clifford epitomized, transforming his work into good work. And that helped Clifford become super productive. It helped infuse his work with heart, and more than a third of every day of his life became a labor of love, an activity of living spirit. And what is true for you is true for Clifford, that you too can make that third of every day a labor of love, an activity of living spirit. There are times when ordinary work stretches and stresses, and the work has you in a kind of an emotional runaway, that the work has you kind of disconnected or withdrawn from those around you, or missing the greater meaning or value of the work. Well, good work means the work is transforming into the constructive, positive opposite of all of that. Good work means the work is at times meditative and contemplative. The activity has your complete focus, so much so that those good feelings, those God qualities abound. And good work means the work is connective, that no matter the activity, no matter what is accomplished on the earth plane, that you're really fully attuned to the world and the people around you, that you're in collaboration with the natural realm while in communion with the supernatural realm. So do not imitate the way of this world. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may discern what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. As Clifford says, keep up all the good work. So let's turn our attention inward right here and right now. And I just call to mind that aspect of the divine that is a positive energy. It is a propelling energy. It is a motivating energy. It is an energy of vitality, of life itself. And that aspect of God is living spirit. It is living spirit living you. It is living spirit living me. And that aspect of the divine is everywhere and within. It surrounds and indwells all there is. It propels. It moves along. It makes motion out of the infinite. And it is universal. It is an intelligence and a compassion that really exceeds all understanding. And knowing God to be everywhere, I know that I am one with living spirit and I am one of living spirit. And what is true for me is true for all beings everywhere, and therefore it is true for you too. That you and I are living spirit as spirit is living us. We are in that flow of the all good, the presence and power, the light and love of God. So I speak my word with that connection, with that unification. I speak my word that all work in life transforms into good work. I speak my word that work elevates to a field of play with the infinite creative. I know and trust my efforts are guided toward a higher good. My intention is to take any opportunity to heal and grow my consciousness in any way that it appears. I commune with living spirit in all my good work as living spirit lovingly collaborates with me. For that is a holy circulation of the one life. So blessing the world as I am blessed. I say thanks for this answered prayer. Thanks for this communion in spirit. And I lovingly release this all into the law of mind and action, knowing as it is spoken, it is so. It is working and playing right here and right now for you and for me. That revelation of the light and love of living spirit is happening right now, right where you are, right where I am. And so it is, and now it is. Amen. Well, thank you so much for joining us this week. If any of this resonated with you and you feel called to donate to What Feeds You Spiritually, here's the ways in which you can donate. Anything is greatly appreciated, and know that your donations keep this teaching going and keep our community growing. So thank you so much for that. We will see you same time next week, and you have a wonderful week. Farewell.